Yeah, Da- yeah. Hey, it's me.
Hey,
Hey,
David.
it's me, your brother David. Hey, Vaughn.
Are you
It's
gonna
just
say
me,
it like
your
that?
brother. Your brother David. No, imagine how would you feel if during this whole podcast I stayed in that voice.
You say what?
If I stayed in that voice the entire duration of this.
Yeah, go for it. I'm gonna try not to laugh the whole time. It'll be a hoot.
Okay. So,
Okay, so you're gonna you're gonna come in and say, "Hey, Vaughn," and then I'm gonna be
hey,
like, "Hey,
hey.
David." So silly and scripted, but okay.
Well, that's what I'm going for. You know, like sometimes in like those bad animes, there'll be like someone who comes into the room and it's like, "Hi, I'm Professor Octavius. I'm here to teach you mathematics." And then there'll be a student. He's like, "Oh, Professor, I know who you are." You know, it's like this really obvious like situation. So that's what I was going for. Um,
But
but
why?
yeah, why?
Nobody knows who we are. They'll
That's.
just
I
think
think that's why.
weird.
That is why though, because no one knows who we are. So I thought I wanted to introduce that we're brother and sister.
You know what? This whole thing actually could have been a great introduction.
Well, this it's recorded.
Oh,
This is
oh,
it.
okay.
This is a start. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Recording right now.
all right. Well, like, edit. That actually would be a very great introduction because it just went right off the rails. Okay.
Right, yeah. All right. So, um, welcome everybody to our podcast. This is our first episode, the pilot with Vaughn and David, and mostly this podcast is going to revolve around video games and things related to video games. But at the end of this session, and maybe we'll keep doing this in future ones, we'll do something off topic. So, um, so I thought to get things started, we would just kind of introduce ourselves. Anything you want to share, Vaughn, about your background and gaming, or anything that you want to share, and then we'll go over maybe this whatever like top games just pop into our head, um, just to kind of introduce, what sort of, I guess, games that we're drawn to, or well, we can explain what that maybe means. That we'll do like a sort of analysis afterwards. But do you want to share a little bit about yourself, Vaughn?
Sure. Okay. So I'm Vaughn, as has been stated many, many times. Um, it's short for Vaughnage. I've been playing video games since I was like 4 or 5 or something, right? Commodore 64 was a thing, I know that. I destroyed it because I tried to make a
Mm-hmm.
video game out of paper. Um,
Yeah.
and ever since then, I've pretty much just kept doing that. I like them a lot. Uh, that's pretty much all I've got to say. I don't have a whole lot of background in it or anything like that. But
That's
I choose to be snobby about some sometimes anyway, and critique them, even though, my only experience is just playing them.
Do you, since you say you feel you can be a little snobby about games, are there certain types of games you kind of look down on, or like turn your nose up towards? I don't know what the expression is. Lift your chin up to.
Yeah, lift your chin up to sounds more like it would be kind of like a compliment. I don't know why though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, any game like in the Duke Nukem genre, like, wouldn't
Hmm.
you? I mean, who wouldn't? Um, those sports games, I guess. I also look my nose up at those.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why. It's just another type of game. I think it's because I feel like they don't know they're being like duped the whole time.
Yeah.
The people that play them. So yeah, I'm a little snobby towards those two particular types.
That's
You?
interesting. So you're a little snobby about it because you feel sorry for the people being duped.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's some games I'm a little snobby towards. I'm trying to think. Maybe games with um
Call of Duty, right?
yeah, like Call
I
of
didn't
Duty.
admit it, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
stuff that's
I
maybe
think I'm secretly a little. Even though I've played that game, and I don't really have anything against it, but I think I have something against the hardcore Call of Duty people.
yeah, I mean I haven't engaged with too many like hardcore Call of Duty people, but it seems like that there's a pretty toxic kind of online community with people who tend to play that game and similar types of games. But I'm not too sure. But I think for me, it's just the shallowness, and then games like MMOs and stuff like online games and stuff. Um, I think they usually seem to be a little shallow because there's no real campaign. Usually, it's just you build your story with your friends, and I don't know. I mean, I could see some
You look down
benefits
your
in it, but
noses
for
on
me, it
those
just
games. You know what? I
I
actually
look
like
more.
the
Yeah,
MMO type for that very specific reason that you don't like it.
I
I
know
would
you do.
prefer a
Yeah,
stronger
and
story, but it is also fun just playing games with people.
yeah, it is fun playing games with people. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something that doesn't feel as I don't know. Well, so I'll introduce myself now. I'm David, and I have pretty much the same background as you in games because we grew up together, just a year older. But I do remember you breaking the Commodore 64. I mean, yeah, the Commodore 64. Um, I think though, like although I've been playing games for a long time, I don't think I really started to like maybe like consider myself a gamer until like or maybe around the time we got the N64 PlayStation kind of era. Like the when was that? Like maybe mid '90s. Um,
Yeah. Like
yeah,
95 ish. I would say
yeah, like
right around there was
'95.
the peak gaming season. Gaming.
Yeah,
Era.
'95. Yeah, yeah, because that's when Pokemon came out, and then the N64 came out like around that
That's
time or
when
just after.
Pokemon came out? You
Yeah,
know
I
that?
think Pokemon came out like in '94, '95.
All right, it's an interesting thing to know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't play the game, but we watched a cartoon. But I remember, like friends like Julian and stuff being pretty into that game at the time. But yeah, even
Oh,
though I loved, like playing Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think we both had a pretty nice collection of Sega Genesis games, especially for like poor kids. Um, um,
right?
yeah, I don't think I really like I still preferred like playing with Legos or playing outside or with friends and stuff than video games. I really liked video games. I just wasn't um, I don't think I got maybe as lost in games the way I did until yeah, like the PlayStation N64.
Mm,
Like with Star Fox and Resident Evil and the Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and stuff.
yeah, yeah. You know what? I concur. I mean, yeah, they have. I didn't even think about it in that way, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same because I always liked video games, but they weren't like a major part of my life until like yeah, I guess like in the like right before middle school or right at there, and then all of a sudden it was
Oh,
all about video games. PlayStation 1 and 64, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So, um, So thinking of that, like of games and when you got into them and stuff, what would you say, like just right off the top of your head, um these could be your favorite games of all times, or just like games that like you would rank really high on a list, but like just right off the top of your head, whether like your top 5 to 7 games just kind of pop in your head, or if it's even less, like 3, that's okay too.
Well, right off the bat is Breath of Fire 3, of course, because I feel like that's
Yeah,
the video game that made me finally understand and love RPGs. Like it was the
yeah,
first, and it was just like so engaging. Like I think that like started my entire infatuation with that genre, and I have a deep nostalgia for that game. I love it. Um, so there's that one. Final Fantasy VII, of course, the original, because it was not finished yet, and even when it is, I'll probably just fuse it into one. I'll just keep calling it Final Fantasy VII and just lump it together. Um, And this game will also come up quite a bit, I think, for all topics or most topics. Is
yeah.
Titanfall 2. I really,
Okay.
really enjoyed that game. It was amazing. It made me feel like a kid again when I was.
All
Hey, do
right.
I sound
So
like
how
Ray
about
Romano? When, when I talk, like, do I sound like? Because I feel like that's what I sound like on.
like Jay Romano?
Like Ray
No,
Romano,
not at all.
like from
Ray Romano?
everything.
You don't sound like Ray Romano. No, not at all.
Okay, that's good. Pretty sure that's good. About that?
Do you have a Ray Romano impression?
No,
No.
maybe I should work on that. But just because I have a fear of sounding like Ray Romano doesn't mean I should
Yeah.
be able to do his voice.
That's funny. One time when I was in grad school, some friends, like 3 or 4 guys I was hanging out with, were like impersonating me, and they were like, "Hey, I'm David. Nice to meet you." Like, why do you
Like
why do
Christopher
you sound like
Walken.
Walken? I don't sound like Christopher Walken. And then this guy's like, "Yeah, you do." No.
You know what? To be fair, when was this? Because I remember there was a time when you were impersonating Christopher Walken a lot, and very well. So maybe
The,
you just
yeah,
picked up his mannerisms and you didn't notice, but everyone else did.
maybe that might be true. Yeah, that might be true. Yeah, maybe it was like 2010, so that might have been the time I was
Oh,
doing my
2010?
Christopher
No.
Walken impression.
Weren't you doing Christopher Walken in like 2005, 6?
Mm, maybe, I don't know. It would have been in that time period, I guess. Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay. So speaking of those past influences and that gaming history in those times, what like just right off the top of your head, um, these don't have to be like the all-time favorite games ever, but just like games that you would consider some of your favorites, just off the top of your head. What are like 5 that come to mind?
Well, obviously, I'm going to start with Breath of Fire 3 because that I think is the game that got me into probably gaming, like actually, like as an actual hobby instead of just something you do every now and then. Definitely the introduction to the genre of RPG. It
Yeah.
was engaging, and like it was the one that we finally settled down and like figured out how to play that kind of game because I think we had struggled with like Zelda or some other fucking game, something with a star. Anyway,
Oh, Fantasy Star.
yeah, remember how hard that
Fantasy
shit
Star
was?
2. I do remember. Yeah, I beat that game. It's about, I'll talk about that later in a little bit. But
Breath
yeah,
of Fire
that
3. Oh wait, that game is probably gonna be on some list, but for sure, always.
mhm.
I love that game. I have like a soft spot for it and nostalgia. I would like to replay it again.
Hmm.
And Final Fantasy VII, of course. Um, I'm just gonna lump the. I'm talking mostly about the old one, although the new one is
Yeah.
pretty cool too. I haven't beat it yet, so it doesn't get to make the list. So Final Fantasy VII, the OG version. Oh, and Titanfall 2, another game that'll probably make list after list because that game was just so fun. It made me feel like a little kid again. Like, remember when you were playing Star Fox and
Yeah.
that there was some points where it was just like the funnest fucking thing and you couldn't help but smile, or was it
Yeah.
Sonic? I had the same feeling playing Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2, definitely on my list. I love that game. Um, Horizon Zero Dawn, because not only was it visually stunning, but the story was engaging, and they found a way to make those little side errands that you have to do, those little side quests, really fun and meaningful. It was just a really engaging game. And I think another game that I really, really like, that comes right to the top of my head, is the indie game What Remains of Edith Finch. It's
Mm.
kind of a walking sim, but I just like I couldn't stop playing. I wished it was a little longer. It was almost like an immersive story, or being able to play a video game of somebody's dream.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and definitely a type of game that made me think of that walking sim genre a little differently too. It's almost like playing a book or something. So
Yeah.
I have to put that on the list. And also, right off the top of my head, come The Last of Us, because
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
they really just found a way to tell a story really well. Um,
Yeah.
it was like super engaging. The combat wasn't the best, but it was fun enough, and the game itself, cinematic, but it made it feel like you were kind of making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, one of the first games I think I played with such a moving, polished story.
Mm.
Um, where, I think it felt like kind of groundbreaking in a lot of ways. Like I think it was one of the first games that like really, like moved me, like emotionally, like the way a really good film sometimes
Yeah,
does.
like the
Yeah.
cinematic aspect, and like by the end of that game when it ended, I just felt relieved that those characters survived the whole time.
Yeah.
Like the main joy I got out of beating that game wasn't from the fact that I beat the game, which was also enjoyable, but I was like, okay, they're both alive. The game is over. Nothing else can happen because they found a way to make you really care about those characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't
Yeah,
want any
that's
of them to
true.
die.
Yeah, that's true. Major spoiler there, but very true. Yeah. I
Oh shit, that
I
is
don't know
spoiler.
if I felt the same way. We'll put a warning at the beginning of every episode for
Yeah,
spoilers.
most people should
Um,
have played the first Last of Us by now.
yeah, I think so. It's been out long enough. It's been like what 13 when I don't know when it came out, but it's
It's been
been
kind of a while. There's very
yeah.
little excuse for not having played it at this point.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I could totally see where you're coming from in that feeling. I think one thing that I just felt was just like all those like side characters that you meet. They were just so like polished and like I really felt for them, in their story arcs when they came to an end. Especially when you meet the young guy and his little brother. I was like,
Oh
oh
my
man,
god,
yeah.
I hate
Oh my gosh,
that. That
yeah,
was like, man, for a video game to make me like get that kind of like a reaction. I was like, fuck you, video game.
yeah. For a game that survival horror game, it's probably the sad, like in a lot of ways it's the most horrific of the survival, like of that horror genre. Like if I just think of what makes something horrible, like of all those worlds, that would be the one I wouldn't want to live in the most because it's maybe the most realistic in a way. It's the sadness is the real horror, loss and grief, and Like that's a real horror. Because Resident Evil, it's like there's the crazy monsters, but there's nothing really to touch on that pathos the same way.
No, no, not when all the antagonists and bad guys are just like people with eye patches and obvious ulterior motives.
Yeah,
With some
I
sort of an
bet.
action star. It's a little harder.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't elicit that same reaction.
yeah,
That's
that's
probably what
funny.
maybe that's what we all secretly like about that game because like it's just like that game that you have to like.
Resident
There-
Evil.
no,
I.
The Last of Us. It's
Oh
like The
yeah,
Witcher. Like you just have if you play games, you must like this game.
yeah,
But I think a lot of
yeah,
people might not know exactly how to word it. It probably is because it has that survival horror, but also can elicit that kind of
yeah,
like sadness. And I know how much you love for people to be sad.
yeah.
It's just a,
I
it
like
is.
sad things.
I mean,
It's true.
if a piece of art can make you sad, that's a pretty good piece, I think.
I think so. I think that's what makes that game so grand is that, and also just like every beat and the pacing. Like you said, the combat wasn't the greatest. I didn't think it was, its highest point, but I think it was just so well paced that it didn't like get in the way of the story or other
Oh no,
gameplay
it
elements that were
certainly
cool.
didn't.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was still pretty fun, that type of gameplay. I like how it kind of it sort of emphasized
No,
stealth
I
quite a
started to
bit,
get the
but
hang of it a little bit. It just
yeah,
felt a little clunky. It wasn't like the worst thing
yeah.
I've ever experienced. And you know what? On that last note, one of the other games I have to put as one of my favorites in recent times, it was Destiny. I have to mention that, and I
Oh, okay.
still kind of really enjoy it because it's that game had the only Crucible, like a person versus person PvP
Mhm.
that I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So for like that's the opposite spectrum of like the Last of Us type of game. So like one
Yeah.
like because of its solid story and linear progression, and then the other one I like because it has none of that, and it was just really fun to like build memories with people, like especially Carlos and my friends. And well, you know how fun it could be to play a video game and then like something weird happens in that game or somebody makes a remark and it's super hilarious. But if you tell it to people outside of that realm, they don't get it at all. They looked at you like you just said a bunch of nonsense.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like building those kinds of memories, and that was really fun. But I mostly also really liked shooting other people in the head. Mm. That game had the best version of that. It just felt
Yeah.
so fluid, and the guns feel so good, and it was really satisfying. And I actually got semi decent at it, so that made it better. Like I
Yeah.
actually miss it. That game pissed me off for a little bit, but I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna go back and play just for the PvP. So
Yeah.
that definitely has to go up there because if I've been playing that game for damn near 7 years, it must be doing something to be on a
Yeah.
favorites list, right?
Is the
And
first Destiny still playable? Because
I
I'll
have
play with you.
I'm not playing the first Destiny. No, the
Ah.
second one is free. You can just
Oh,
play
is
it.
it free? Oh,
Yeah, they
okay.
went free to play. They A lot of things have changed. That's why I'm considering going back.
Oh,
They've
okay.
changed. They've changed. So I'm gonna take them back.
Yeah.
Give them a second chance. I really, really miss killing other people in that game. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And then so what would your not favorite games be, but like what are when you consider a great game?
A great game for me. I think some of the ones you touched on, I would share with, and I think like Breath of Fire 3 for sure is one of those. Um, I think Breath of Fire 3 because I think it was one of the first games that really like immersed me in like that kind of world, I guess, or just like in games and video games. It's also like the game I tend to kind of compare a lot of other games too, like on certain quality, like just things I liked about that game. Um, what I loved about Breath of Fire 3 is I liked it's sort of a it's really like colorful and kind of like if you just saw pictures of it, it looks like cute and happy, but it actually and it has a lot of humor, especially the beginning, the first maybe quarter of it, when you're a little kid with Tipo and stuff. But I think even with that, there's like always a sense of like kind of like maybe dread or sadness that's kind of
There's that
goes
sadness
throughout the
thing here
story.
rearing its ugly head.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just like travels through with the story, and then it keeps building more and more until you get to the end of the game. I also really liked at that time, um, I like the level progression. I like the overworld map because it's nice and you can explore, and then you can kind of pick and choose if you want to get in like fights on the overhead map, but you can also like it's not so big that you would get lost, like in Final Fantasy VII or Wild Arms and stuff. Like sometimes I would just get lost in the overworld map because it was sometimes pretty big, for that time. I guess it was big. But Breath of Fire was, like it didn't have as large as a piece, but still felt like pretty epic. Even though it was a little more like linear, I guess, in that way. But at the same time, it wasn't too linear because there were so many things that you could do before you hit each, I
Remember the
guess, like
fairy
plot
village?
checkpoint. I do remember the fairy village. That was fun.
I liked it, that aspect. It introduced me to so much things. Fishing in video games,
Yeah,
building little things
yeah,
that you
mini
do other
games. Yeah,
things in video games.
yeah, yeah. I think that's something that hooked me. Is it wasn't just you did. I think it was one of the first times I got into a game, and a lot of the role playing games did this, especially that era of games where there was just a lot of different things like the mini games. You would go out and explore a dungeon, but then you do something in a town where like it was a common thing to like do something besides just the combat stuff, and it was just a really nice like way of pacing stuff and like um, making it so you didn't get kind of like burnt out from doing the same kind of grinding over and over.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All those little breaks and stuff. I remember, didn't we kind of have like the more random, realistic things that video games put in, the more I was interested in them. Like, I remember when
Hmm.
Legend of Legaia came out, and I think you are the one that told me that there's like this really big city in it where you can like gamble and like
Hmm.
the characters can eat food and stuff. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Like the coolest thing. Like the more mundane shit they could squeeze into a game, it just made it so much cooler. Like the fishing and stuff. And to me, that
Yeah.
still holds true. I still love a game that lets you fish or just kind of like go dick around in a city, and there's all kinds of like little things to do in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that too. And yeah, and I think Breath of Fire 3 just really set that up for me. And yeah, it's just really holds a place. I mean, it's a game I haven't beat a whole lot of times. I think I beat it 3 times, but I've played it. I've started it like over and over again. At least I don't know. At least like every year since we've had it, almost I've restarted it. So I've played the beginning a lot.
Really?
I've gone through the Mayor's Manor. Do you remember that part where you fight the
Yes, I
ghost? I've
do.
got like the beginning parts up until where like your hideout burns down. Like I've played up until there so many times. I know almost like every thing that happened. I'm maybe just a couple more plays away from like being able to repeat what villagers say and stuff. Old Man
That's
Bunyan,
a
you
It's
know.
a very incredibly interesting ritual that you've created for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's because
Strange.
I get pulled a lot. I just like I'll play a game that I really like, and I'll think of Breath of Fire 3, and I'm like, yeah, I should play it, and then I'll play it a little bit, but then I don't get too far because there'll be something else I'm playing at the same time, and then I just
Mhm.
end up putting more energy in that. But I'm
Yeah.
currently trying to play that game right now actually because I've been going through all the Breath of Fires for the first time
You're gonna
because
try to
I'd
play it
only
again.
and I'm gonna try to play it again because so I had beaten so like Breath of Fire 3 was the first one I played and beat, and then I played part 4 um, back in like '07, like when I was after my car accident and I was kind of bedridden and recovering. I beat Breath of Fire 4 and it was a great game. I think there were a couple things that I missed in it that Breath of Fire 3 had. Um, the characters weren't as charming as part 3 for me. They were a little more fleshed out, but not as charming. And then Dragon Quarter, which I beat maybe like 6, 7 years ago. Man, that game, like it gets a bad rap if you look it up. But it's really cool. Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing it.
Ooh, you
I
should
couldn't
save
stop.
that for our underrated list.
Yeah, I will, because that game was great. So I had beat those three, and then I had dabbled in part two and part one a little bit and stuff, and I have them on SNES. I thought I would beat them before the batteries die on the cartridges, and that I won't be able to save them anymore. Um, Say my progress, and they're short games. So I beat part two. That was a really fun game. I think if you like part three a lot, I think you would like part two. I think you started part two, right, on the Game Boy
I
Advance.
did, but you know
Yeah,
what? I can't play with that thing because the screen has no backlighting.
yeah. I think you
Where do
have
I
it
find
on
that?
your. Yeah, that's just the way they designed it,
It's
unfortunately.
so weird. Like, I keep on having to find weird angles to play at, and I was like,
Yeah,
I did think about just buying a light or something though, like from eBay.
they have. Um, they have what's it called? What am I trying to say? It might be there's some other like I think Game Boy Advances aren't too expensive nowadays. I think they have newer ones with backlights, but
Oh,
there's
they
probably
do. Yeah,
also yeah.
they
I think
do.
you have I think you have that game on the Wii though too. A
Oh,
virtual.
do I? I
I
know. I
think
didn't
you do.
know that. Yeah, it would be kind of cool to have a little handheld game to play though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I like that. I love playing little games like right before you go to bed or like in
Yeah.
between. Sometimes I don't have shit to do. You know, half
Yeah.
my day is like waiting
Oh,
for paint to dry. I'd like to play a game in between.
oh, Nintendo DS's um are fairly inexpensive, and they play both DS games and uh, Game Boy Advance games.
What?
So, huh? I said that Nintendo DS, they're not too expensive, and they will play both Game Boy Advance and SD games.
Oh.
So that might, and they're back. They have a backlight too.
Yeah,
So
I
that
have
might
no
be,
problem with the backlight. That would be cool. Well, if you ever
yeah,
find like a cheap link, you
yeah.
can send it to me.
Okay, yeah. If I see one, because I hit up those retro shops a lot. If I see one, maybe I'll pass it along your way. But anyway, so Breath of Fire 3
That'd be
went
so
on.
cool. I would
Yeah,
love to play that again. And on like an old ass like little device, that'd be super cool too.
yeah,
More
that would be
nostalgia.
cool.
It's just gonna make me want Taco Bell. Hey, you know what?
Uh,
You've only gotten through one game so far. What else
just
would
one game.
get on
So
to
what else?
your Yeah.
So Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, would be another one. I think
Mm.
for a lot of the same reasons you talked about The Last of Us, I would apply for Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't think it was as touching of a narrative. Like it wasn't like as an emotional, like sad story, but I think it was just a fantastic narrative. I think it hit a lot of like really nice beats. I did care quite a bit for the characters, but I think it also had a lot of the like role playing elements and stuff that I enjoyed. And for a Western role playing game, it had a lot of stuff that I really like in like JRPGs with the openness and character progression of a Western RPG and stuff. But I think just the story and the gameplay, like the battle mechanics and the way you leveled up and the armor that you got and going into those oh, I forgot what they were called, those caves, and getting new upgrades to hijack, more like prehistoric robots and stuff. Like all
Mm.
of that was just so awesome. And I think one thing, like I really liked The Last of Us, but I don't think I would put it on my list because for me, the games
Oh.
that I would say are like my favorites or the ones that I think are superb are the ones for me where like as soon as I beat, I almost kind of want to like replay it right away. And The Last of Us, I think I like when I was done with that game, I was like, that was awesome. But I was also like, it'll probably be like a few years before I play that again. I think because the narrative was so like rich and stuff, um, and because the gameplay wasn't like my favorite style of play. But I would play that game again for sure. It just wasn't like Horizon Zero Dawn. I almost um, played it like right after again. I think I
Mm.
did actually. I didn't beat it, but I think I started it almost right away afterwards. Um, and then some other games. So Horizon Zero Dawn, yeah, that's one of the best. Lost Odyssey, which I know is a game that you haven't played, but I've sent you text messages a lot about when I was playing it. That game was so
Is that the
unique
one you
and
got really
impressive.
into, and then I kept thinking the character should be with the one with the spiky hair, but it wasn't?
Oh, that was Dragon Quest 11.
And what game are you playing now?
Right now,
Dragon Age, right?
I'm playing Dragon Age, yeah,
These games
Inquisition.
need to stop naming themselves so similarly.
Right, yeah. And then when I'm done playing Dragon Age, I'm gonna play Dragon Puzzler. I don't know. I'm running Dragon
Yeah.
Spirit. Yeah. Uh, so,
Okay, so you got
oh, but Lost Odyssey was really cool. And Lost Odyssey, it's a shame that it's an Xbox 360 exclusive, but if when the new Xbox comes out, it's going to be totally backwards compatible. So if you get it, you should definitely check out Lost Odyssey. It's a cheap game too right now. It's like $8.
here's the thing though. Even if the new Xbox is backwards compatible, is there
Yeah.
still enough games to make me want to buy an Xbox of any sort?
I
The game,
think,
there should be games that I really want to play, but there really isn't.
yeah.
Just stick to PlayStation. Because all the games that I want to play on PlayStation or Xbox, they're on PlayStation. And
I
then
think that's a
there
valid point.
was a game called Scalebound that had me intrigued, and I thought, oh, I might have to buy an Xbox. But then they canceled it, and I was like, well, that sucks. But at least now I don't have to buy that Xbox, and that hasn't
Hmm.
changed since.
Yeah. Yeah, I got my Xbox Quest is really just because I really love the a lot of the games from the original Xbox, and since the 360 and the Xbox One are backwards to a degree. They're not like 100% backwards compatible, but enough with like all the like main, I guess, games from Microsoft and that were exclusive to Xbox. So I think that's kind of where I went, and it's also ended up being like the cheapest. But I think, you know, if you did dabble in it, like I think, the Xbox tends to have better graphics and stuff. This new one's supposed to be like completely backwards compatible. I think for someone like you, like the games I know you like to play, I think actually if you went back to that 360 era, there's a lot of really good games I think you would enjoy more than maybe the ones on the Xbox One, because a lot of those games were the same. I think you would have liked that were also for the PS4, but I think the 360 really tried like there was a lot more like role playing games and games I think cater to like the stuff that you kind of like that were exclusive, like uh from the same people who did Control. Alan Wake, I think you would love Alan Wake.
Oh yeah, I heard about
Um,
that. That
yeah,
looks intriguing, actually.
yeah. So I think if you did get it, I think getting games for the 360 would probably be more up your alley because I think those are the ones where you would find more of the stuff you like, and they're pretty inexpensive. But yeah, I mean, see what it. I'm pretty sure one day the Xbox One X or whatever it's going to be called, Xbox. What's the new system going to be called? Series X or
You know,
whatever.
I uh, at this point, I don't even know. Just wait for them to just announce it fully and sell it, and then we can know what it's called.
Right? Yeah.
Like I said, I don't even really pay attention to Xbox too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
I
that I'm
don't
a fan
either.
person or
Yeah.
whatever. Just they haven't tickled my fancy in their direction at all. It's
Yeah.
only the PlayStation has.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't consider myself a fan person, but I guess I tend to engage more with the PlayStation more. And then so I said Breath of Fire 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, Lost Odyssey. Another game, Jet Set Radio. Like, it's probably one of the few like non-RPG games I just love. Like everything about, I think about that game a lot. Um, like when I'm walking somewhere, like I'll just think, oh, that would be a great stage for Jet Grind Radio. Or Jet Set Future. I kind of just lumped them together because they're basically the same game. Um, but that game is so fun, so
It
amazing.
is.
Yeah,
It's unique.
that
It was
that is a
definitely
great
one
game.
of time. Yeah, I have fond memories.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I guess Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if I'm saying that just because you said that. Maybe if you didn't, I would have said something different. But I think that game, was I think for a lot of people, like that's what kind of introduced them to like role playing games, or even like made how people like enter that gaming world. Like I remember even before we had it, like seeing trailers of it and like just how like cool it looked and stuff. Like I remember on the commercials it would show, the opening CG clip of Midgar with the train and Cloud, and it looked kind of like wacky looking, those 3D graphics because it was that sort of like chibi style, that super deformed big head and stuff, and I wasn't sure what to think of it, but I was like, that looks pretty interesting. And I remember, I think it was the trailers or maybe in like gaming magazines, they would kind of boast how there were like hundreds of NPCs you could talk to or something like that. It's like talk to like 120 million people or something. It was it just seemed I think there was just so much hype about it, and I think that like I remember being in school and kids talking about it, and I didn't even have it yet, but it just kind of like it just made like that gaming world seem more like a thing, like a community, I guess. And I started to see more people I didn't expect to play games playing. I must have been maybe when it came out, like, I don't know, fifth, sixth grade. Um, and then I played it for a bit when we lived, remember when Dad lived near that, oh, I forgot the name of that park. But anyway, but he lived in that house across the street from Ricky. Do you remember that place?
Those religious
I mean,
people.
yeah, those religious people. So he lived across the street from those religious people. And then there was a little boy that used to hang out with them, and you and I became friends with that little boy. I don't remember his name, but Dad would call him Snaggletooth. And and
Oh God.
I think one time you and I went over to hang out with him, and we played like some tabletop board game with his dad, and it was super boring as hell. But anyway, one time I hung out with a Snaggletooth, and he got like Final Fantasy VII, and he like had the ship already, the little ship you get, and he let me play it and
Yeah.
like do some of the fighting. And it was confusing for me because I was, still pretty new. I think so. I had played it before we got like Breath of Fire 3, so I didn't really understand role playing games. Like I was used to action adventure games and stuff. Um, Before that, the only other games we had played, or I played at least, that were role playing games was Fantasy Star 2 and Shining Force, and
Oh, Shining Force.
they were confusing. Like I remember being in Shining Force and you get battle, and then it would go to that screen and show like the portrait, and I'm like, how do you move your character? I don't get this. It took me a long time to realize. It was until Breath of Fire 3 that I realized kind of the whole like turn-based system, leveling up characters, um, stuff like that. Um, but but yeah, and luckily, like looking back, like I probably got a chance to explore role playing games earlier than some people I've maybe met who got more into them later. Uh, but yeah, so those would be like if I just like named five off the top of my head, those would be the five. It's a six just because it's entering my brain right now, and I gotta say it. Like not just one in this series, but the whole like Deus Ex
Okay,
quad.
I know. All right. I have to say Deus Ex too. When you were
Yeah,
talking about a different game, and I was like, fucking Deus
yeah,
Ex. The whole fucking franchise is the shit. Like
yeah,
the world and the concept, and they can cram so much into so little of a space, you know. And they even made
yeah,
a monitor fucking cool, you know.
yeah. Yeah, that game is really really good. And even with the last one that they did, like I'm a little sad, and in the fact that how it kind of had that abrupt ending because I was like really gearing up for the next one, and who knows if they'll do another one. Um, but yeah, anyway, that game is fun. I hope it comes back, or even if it doesn't come back, moving on with what's his name story, the main character in like Human Revolution and stuff. But even if
Jensen.
who Jensen,
Jensen. What is Adam
yeah, it was
Jensen?
Adam Jensen. Yeah, that's great. I also love like the biblical. Like I usually don't like biblical references in games and movies,
Ugh, yeah, I know
but
me
Deus
neither.
Ex does an awesome job with it because in the games for the PS3 and PS4 and that era of gaming. Adam Jensen, like he's Adam, like like Adam and Eve, right? And then in the games, like because they're the prequel to the games that came out like back in the day, where you played as JC, like Jesus Christ. I mean, that's just
A
it's
little
just
on
kind
the
of cool
nose.
how they, huh?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say it was a little on the nose.
It's on the nose for sure, but I like the way. I still thought it was cool. Kind of like the Matrix, how they play with that too, that sort of biblical stuff, without it actually being like biblical. It's just kind of
What
like they
about that?
just
That storytelling strategy, same as like
yeah,
Star Wars is used.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I think you're right. yeah, it follows that sort of like heroes myth.
Yeah,
That
I liked
the
it.
monolith,
Mm-hmm.
monomyth. I'm sorry, monomyth, and it's also just thinking like Deus Ex, like in theater, like ancient Greek theater. You know, they had the like Deus Ex Machina, which is like God's machine, and that would be the stuff that would like set the, that would be the stuff that like change the scenes and background, the props and stuff in the stage and stuff. So it's kind of neat how they play with that kind of stuff. By the way, this is,
I did
I'll go
not
this at
know
the end.
that
Yeah,
Deus Ex
off
Machina
topic
had
thing.
anything to do with people changing the scenes on a play. That's new
Yeah,
knowledge to me.
yeah, yeah. All right.
There's
So,
no need for the condescending laugh. Just moved on to the next subject, but what the fuck ever.
I'm glad I could share that with you. We'll put some links in the doobly doo wherever
Sure you
this
could.
posted. Yeah. Um, but yeah, Deus Ex is a great game. What are some games you're playing right now, and what are the games that you're really like into right now currently?
Let me tell you about the games I'm playing currently. I
I
am I am not in a position to play too many games at the moment. Right now, as we speak, I'm playing that game Fall Guys. Um,
I've
have
been
you played
seeing
it?
a
It's
lot of stuff about
free.
that.
If you, well, it's goofy. Have you seen that show ever? You ever accidentally stay up too late getting drunk with your friends and end up watching the show called Wipeout?
I don't
And
think so.
no, I'm almost positive you have. Everyone has. It's where they have these people running through an obstacle course, and there's
Oh,
like
okay.
things like punching them in the face and knocking them into
Yeah,
the water, and the hosts are very like rude, and they're always making little remarks. Sometimes people are dressed ridiculously. That's
I think
basically
I've
what this game is.
I think I've seen that actually.
You know you
I
have.
just didn't know
Just
the
admit
name.
it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Well, that's cool. But yeah, I've heard a lot about that game. I'm not
And
sure.
it's
I wasn't
fun.
sure what to make of it. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's cool. Did
It's free
you?
right now. I would definitely play it. It'll make you laugh, man. Like
Okay.
it's a hoot. I don't know if I would like. I don't know how much money I would spend on it. Me personally, it's just not my kind of continuous game. But right now, that is what
Yeah.
I'm. I mean, as we speak. Other than that,
Yeah.
I'm playing the free game Warframe because I have some friends that play that. And like I said, sometimes I like to play games with friends. And on the other side of that spectrum, I'm playing Prey, which is also a really good game, which I think we discussed a little bit.
Yeah.
And I like the story parts of that one a little bit more. I believe I figured it out. Like I think
Oh.
I know what's going on, but I don't want to say it because it could be a spoiler or might just be wrong. I will look stupid. So
Yeah.
either way,
I'd be curious to hear your maybe off the this thing you could text it to me or something. I won't
like
confirm or
yeah, I
deny.
was thinking about
Yeah.
it.
But I'd be
Yeah,
curious to.
don't say anything. That's what I do. When people ask me, like, when I show them something I've already seen, and they're like, "What happens?" or do they kill them?" or whatever, I just give them a blank stare, like a
Yeah, that's
solid face, like a statue. It's almost
that's funny.
creepy.
That
It
sounds creepy for sure.
is. It is. That's what makes it so fun.
That's funny.
Oh.
Oh yeah, but yeah, Prey, that was a fun game. So
Yeah,
you're
I
playing
play
like
now.
two like online games and
Well,
one
no, no. Fall
first.
Guys is not. Fall Guys is a game I'm playing because I can mindlessly play it as we speak.
Oh, okay.
This is probably the third time I've played it. I am
Yeah.
playing
Cool.
Warframe. I do play that regularly. I must admit I'm a little mildly addicted to the grind, but I feel like that's the kind of game where at some point I'm just gonna be like, all right, that's enough of that. Um,
Yeah.
and then the other one is Prey, So those, it's mostly Prey and Warframe. Those are my
Yeah.
games that I balance. I can't really do more than 2 games.
Yeah.
I gotta at least kind of beat them or something, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what have you been playing lately? I assume it's about eight to 10 games.
Yeah, usually I'll play a lot of games at once. I'm playing Breath of Fire 1 on the Super Nintendo, and then probably a little past the halfway point. It's a pretty short game. It's probably less than 20 hours, if seems like. Um, but it's fun. It maybe doesn't have the same depth as the later games do, but it's fun, and it's like like even just visually, like it looks great. Like it's like probably one of the best games I played on the Super Nintendo. Um, I think it's really good. It's really fun. I think I prefer the other ones more, but it's it's fun. It's engaging. I've been playing good chunks of it. But you do so much in like an hour or two. It's a really great feeling. Like versus a game like Final Fantasy VII remake or a Xenoblade Saga or something like, or even like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you'll be playing for like 3 hours and you're still doing like the same side quest like that you've started like 3 hours ago. Have you ever like
Oh
had that?
yeah. Uh
Like
huh.
you're, yeah, I'm just gonna play for 2 hours, and then you play and you're like, I didn't really progress very much, did I? Like all I did was like talk to these townsfolk. Um, so it's kind of nice to play a game where it just moves a little faster and stuff. Um, the dialogue isn't as great as some of the other games. Not that they're all like literary or anything, um, but they're interesting. They're funny. It's a funny game. It's cute. So I've been playing that. I've also been playing a little bit of Dragon Quest 8 on the PS2. Well, I'm playing on my PS3, but it came out on the PS2, and it's fun. I've been I started playing it right after I beat 11 because I had 8 since probably 2007 or something, and I was like, I'm trying to go back to those games I've had like for like 10 years or longer and trying to finally beat them. And I'm really liking 8. I actually kind of might like Dragon Quest 8 a little more than I liked 11, but I loved Dragon Quest 11. I don't rarely get like platinum trophies in games, but I got that platinum trophy because I just could not stop playing. And even I'm going to tell you this right now. So when you do play, um, like there's a like when you beat the game, you don't really beat the game. There's another chapter afterwards, and it is long and it is great. I mean, for me it was because like when I beat the game, I was like, oh man, it's over, and I was like, wait, it's not over. There's like another like 30 hours of gameplay. Oh shit. Um, that's
Oh
cool.
my
It's a
god,
great
that's
game.
so cool. You know it's a good game when like as soon as it's over, you're like, "Aw, like I'm
Yeah,
gonna genuinely miss those characters."
yeah, that's exactly what it was like. It was like going to a concert, and then when the band leaves the stage, and everyone's like, "Oh," and then they come back, and then they start playing
Oh, and then they
again.
do an
Everyone's like,
encore.
"Yeah," it was like an encore. So,
Oh,
11
cool.
was fun. I really enjoy. I love the characters, but part 8, there's just something. I don't know. There's just something that's captivating me in a different way than 11 had. But I'm not playing it as much. Like part 11, I was playing almost nonstop all day every day. Like I was super into it. But there's something about 8 I'm kind of starting to like a little more. I can't put my finger on it, but maybe I'll come back to it someday. So I'm playing those 2 games. I'm also playing a little bit of Tales of Berseria. Usually I do like one role playing game and then one like shooter or something or action game. But right now I don't know what happened. I'm playing all these role playing
I have
games.
to try to balance it in a similar way. Like I can't play two RPGs at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, normally
There's
it's
gotta be
kind
a
of
balance. Sometimes I try to balance it between dark and light. Like I was
yeah.
playing like and it was like Deus Ex and Bloodborne. I
Yeah.
think I was playing at the same time. Because sometimes it's
Yeah.
like, oh, do I feel like being in this super depressed world where everything just, you know,
Yeah.
or you know, going to the world of Deus Ex where you can punch through walls and
Yeah.
you know shoot people from long distance.
Yeah. 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 I get that. Yeah. Deus Ex, you almost kind of enter that God mode kind of place pretty quickly. And even though it's kind of a gritty world, it's not as depressing as Bloodborne, those types of
There's
games.
few things as depressing as Bloodborne, but they don't depress you in the regular sense. Like they don't
No.
they don't depress you with story. That what
Yeah.
Bloodborne is like the jazz of video games.
Yeah.
It's the story beats you don't hear. That's
Yeah.
the depressing
That's
part.
true.
Because they don't bombard you with characters that you get attached to and then they die.
Yeah.
They bombard you
Yeah.
with that you'll never get to know this character.
Yeah.
Ever. And then they'll turn into a monster or die. And
Yeah.
it's so everything's so like eerie and the tone is so dark. Oh shit, that could have made the list too. You know,
Oh,
these
really?
lists
That's interesting.
these lists
Yeah.
might be meaningless. Actually, I think my opinion might change day to day.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I bet you would have an easier time, and maybe the next when we do another episode, maybe we could talk about games that we, hated. It might be easier to talk about those because those will probably stay constants, right? Where a favorite game, while it might always hold like a special place in your heart, is probably going to be replaced, unfortunately, by something that does it better or just something that feels fresher.
it's not really unfortunate though. That's just the way things go. That you
Maybe.
know, a long time ago, I gave up on having a favorite band or a favorite
Mm,
musician because it just changes so
yeah.
frequently. And I don't
Yeah.
see why I should do the same with games. Like I've never really had like I don't have a favorite movie or a favorite book or I don't really have favorites. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, what makes a favorite is just um, when it's something you go to often, whether it's you go to that material again over and over again, or it just comes to you a lot. Like it's just something that's
Comparison. Like
not
compared
just
to this
like
game, right?
yeah. Are you comparing it?
Oh well, I mean, I was comparing in my head. I didn't mean to.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think it's just something where you'd compare other games to, or it's just something you just think about, often, like randomly, even at times. Like for me, that's what it is. Like something where it's like not only just influential for maybe something in your like identity or taste or aesthetics, but also something that like um, you keep building off of in some way. Like a band. Like I love the band Air, and it's been like 20 years maybe that I've been listening to them. And they're a band I go back to. Well, a band. It's two guys. They're
Yeah,
musicians.
I never know what to
They're,
call them either.
yeah,
I just say artists now.
artists. That's a better term. Air is an artist, or they're artists that I find myself going back to pretty frequently. Um,
Hmm.
and just because like they kind of grow with me, where there's other musicians where like the Crystal Method, who I really enjoyed, when I was younger, but they haven't really like. And there's maybe a few songs that have really stayed with me, but like now when I go back, it just kind of feels like nostalgia. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I remember being 15 years old listening to this or whatever. But with Air, like because I've carried them with me for so long, they just feel very like present in moment. And Breath of Fire 3 is like that for me. Like it's both nostalgic, but it also just I carry it with me. Like those new memories that I'm building with it. So I think for me, that's kind of what makes a favorite is just something I just go to a lot, and
Like
it
something
just
that
comes back.
something classic then.
Yeah, it's something classic, I guess.
Oh, you know, if
For me, yeah,
yeah,
Nice.
that even you know, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even really know how to define a favorite
Yeah,
before this conversation because I guess I don't really feel like I have favorites of anything. There's just uh, there are basically the way you put it way more eloquently than I probably could.
Hmm.
Uh, and when you define it like that, I could redo that whole list.
Oh,
Uh,
I think a lot of the reasons you gave though for your list sound pretty good, like Titanfall, and I mean,
oh
it
my god,
sounds
I
like
love that game. I
yeah,
would never take that game away.
yeah,
And I don't think I would take games away. I don't know.
yeah.
I think the list would probably just grow longer
I bet it would
or
grow
something.
longer. Yeah,
Yeah, you see, you described actually. Remember how I told you that I don't really like nostalgia because it makes me
right.
depressed. But you
Yeah,
just okay. So there's like nostalgia that makes me like depressed. I don't really know why. I don't want to dissect that. Anyway, so then there's like the type of nostalgia that
yeah,
you keep going with you. Like
yeah.
like there's some groups that like I've been listening to. So like a minute, like the group Cell Dweller. Remember them? I
I
freaking
do
love that
remember
guy.
them.
He just keeps
Yeah,
making new things. He just
yeah.
exists forever, and I still listen to him. And there are like
Wow.
groups like that that I could just, they just, like you said, they evolve with you,
Yeah,
and continue to listen to them, and they grow with you. And then there's other ones, and they kind of fall by the wayside. And like me personally, I don't listen to most things for more than a few months. Like
yeah,
even the music I listen to now isn't the music I was listening to a year and a half ago. It's a completely
yeah,
different playlist. I don't want that. Just you gotta you move forward unless they really stick in there and they keep making new shit, and that stuff
yeah,
also resonates. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
good way to describe a favorite. I think. Like I know, like when I say a favorite band or group or musician or whatever the fuck they are, it's because they consistently make songs that I like. Like you start to weigh out the like, they've made they've made way more good songs than bad songs, or like I've never heard a bad song from this group in my life. But with video games, it's a little different because they don't keep making that. Like
Well, what about Assassin's Creed?
them as a favorite because there's no consistency. So like
Yeah,
my favorites from like 1996 through 2006 are just like you can't pick them because from 2006 to 2016 it's a completely different list.
yeah. That makes sense. But I bet there's some that have stayed
Yeah.
with you and that you, like you said, compare other things to. So they must have had some impact where it's staying with you even as you engage in other, movies or video games or music or
Yeah.
even types of food or spear or whatever.
Well, I could see that, and then I guess I would fall back to a similar list then because they all have that quality where there was something about
Yeah.
this specific. Oh, what should have made the list was Star Fox actually. See, this is why you can't make lists. They're never gonna be long enough because that game was fun,
Well,
and it
yeah,
introduced me to some concepts too. And some of those
yeah.
concepts I found very fun in like Titanfall 2. I don't know
Mhm.
why Titanfall 2 reminded me a lot of Star Fox 64, but it did.
Oh, that's interesting. You should do a review of that comparison. I'd love to hear more on that dynamic, that a comparison of Star Fox and Titanfall.
Star Fox. I mean, we could
Yeah,
discuss them both here. That
yeah,
way I don't have to write a bunch of stuff.
yeah. That would be
I mean,
cool
I
to
don't
hear.
mind writing. I have, I have other I have other little gigs and shit going on.
But yeah, I think those are some really, like I don't think there's everyone's going to have, of course, a different way of defining favorites, and I think it's totally legit not to have favorites for whatever reason. Like there's always going to be something that's going to take its place, or sometimes it's just when you start comparing things, you realize that you can't just like put things into a number or a list. Like I mean, like we've just numbered stuff, but like if you were to ask me to put something in a hierarchy from like top one down. Like that would be hard for me. I would have a hard time. I would keep
Yeah,
going.
I had a hard time just coming up with favorites, quite frankly,
Yeah, like that
because
that type
there's
of
so many
grading.
things that could be a favorite for different reasons.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's most. It should be more about favorites of a genre, and then even those
yeah,
you could probably narrow
yeah.
down.
Well, let's do another episode of these where we break down favorites in a genre, like games that we think are some of the most tip top, the grooviest of that genre, from our opinion, and why.
Okay.
And then next our next episode, we'll do some games that we find to be a little cringy for whatever reason. Um,
Okay. Wait.
and
Next episode we're doing which one?
next episode we'll do the cringy. We'll spend some more time thinking about. We'll come up with some nice lists. We'll think about it more. Um, but for next episode, we'll just talk about some, like, what makes a game cringy to us, but also like what are those cringy games we're like we ended up playing, maybe even liking. Like you could call it a guilty pleasure. I'm not sure, but a game where like if your significant other or parent walked in the room, you're like, oh shit, glad glad they didn't see that scene or whatever.
Yeah, my list is a little short for that. Like, I'm having a hard time. I'd probably have to go back a ways to
Yeah.
think of games.
And it could be cringy in any context. I mean, it could be,
Oh, I
the
know acting.
voice
Oh,
acting. Yeah.
oh my God! You know what's gonna make that list?
Shen Mue. I don't know why.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I knew you would get that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Especially that guy. Oh my God! I have to look up what he said. It was just
Right.
like, yeah. All right, we will have to save some of that because I was about to ramble on about that now.
Yeah. We'll save that for the next one. Maybe we'll try to do one of these maybe like once a month or twice a month or something. Maybe a little more frequently, because we could talk about that. And we'll have those two episodes coming up pretty soon. And we'll have these both on YouTube, but also on wherever things are streamed for podcasts. So look out for new episodes there. And anything off the topic you want to just share real quick, or anything you want to promote or get off your chest or call
Let's
out?
see. Off topic, off topic. The only thing I can think of off topic is, have you noticed that grocery stores are starting to push rotten food like way more? Like, am I the only one getting it? Like,
I don't know.
because I think they think you're not gonna return it. Like, I've
Yeah,
almost bought an open thing of peanut butter, pickles, or is it just the store where I live at?
that's a good
Just off
question. I'm
topic.
not sure. Yeah, I'll
Is it
think.
because of the coronavirus? They're like,
I
we
like
can
that you
sell
keep
you
saying
whatever
off
the fuck
topic.
we want.
I like that you keep saying off topic. Anyway, like I think I get it.
Just make
this is
sure.
off. This is
Make
just an off
sure my
topic from.
rankings are titled correctly.
Yeah, but I'll have to look more when I'm grocery stores. Well, I get fresh fruit. I tend to get what's in season. Maybe that's it. Um,
Oh my god.
I've noticed there's less fruits than there normally is, and maybe it's because of the pandemic that maybe they're not, maybe it's not as easy getting stuff. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it, but I don't think you're wrong. Something I've noticed that's strange is I live right underneath a flight path. Like there's an airport not too far from me, and like every in an hour you'll maybe see like 10 planes going by, and like in the past 5 months they've been flying like much lower than they normally are. Like I can make out the details of these planes super well. Like they look like they're about to land in my backyard or something. Like they are close, and I feel like something has changed with that. So I don't know if it's maybe because there's less like air traffic, or maybe the planes are not as crowded, so maybe they're flying lower. I'm not sure. I tried to Google it, but I didn't spend very much time in that lazy research. But that's what I
Really?
noticed. Something
That,
that's, I think, kind of similar, a recent thing. Yeah.
yeah. Why would they fly lower though? Wouldn't flying higher get you there faster?
Well, they probably are higher until they get close to the landing strip.
Oh
I
yeah,
think they're
especially
just,
in a big
yeah,
ass.
I think they're just like going lower. It seems sooner than they normally do lately
Yeah,
as they
probably
land.
because they. Hey, right, right. I bet you all
Yeah.
kinds of things have subtly changed.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things have changed.
For me, it's people selling rotten fruit left and right, and for you,
Yeah,
it's airplanes.
the airplanes, yeah.
Hashtag Western problems or whatever they call it, right? The planes
First
are
world,
more.
first world problems. Yeah. Okay. All right. So next time we'll do some cringy stuff. So come up with your list for those, and we'll talk about our relationship with cringy games and what makes a game cringy for us. All right. Catch you by the tail. I'll think of it tonight. A cute
That's the top of the cringe list.
Yeah. All right. I'm not gonna edit that one out. Okay.
Alright, now we can edit and you can stop recording.
Okay. All right.
That was fun!
Up the top.